Think back to the last time that you threw a party. How did you choose who to invite? Whoever makes the best guacamole? No? Maybe that's just me. Whoever tells the best stories and jokes? The best friend of your crush? The person who you know has an employee discount on that new mattress you've been meaning to buy? Or maybe those you're sure won't be offended by your unfiltered political rants. In Jesus' time, there were 3 primary guidelines for who you'd invite to the party. 1. People who would enhance your status. 2. Those you owed a favor to. And 3. People who were likely to do a future favor for you. Even today, social circles tend to form around similar gravitational centers, whether we're conscious of them or not. Family often gets in by default, whether we like them or not, because God or fate has ordained that they're ours. And then there are the people we actually like, who share our taste in food and in music, and our opinion of how many body parts and which it's acceptable to tattoo. And then there are the people who we think might help us. Any chance you wouldn't mind sleeping with a cat on your face for the next week or 2? And then there are the people we feel an obligation to, because they did invite us to their barbecue last summer. These people make the cut. They get the invites. They're in the circle. Then there's the out-group of those not on the list. The people whose clothes smell odd, whose yard is returning to the wild, who don't have easy transportation, who tend to miss the social cues, who never return invitations, whose culture is foreign to us, the people we tell ourselves we just don't have anything in common with. Jesus famously gets invited to a lot of parties. Parties thrown by rich tax collectors and packed with local sinners, and to parties of religious experts, whose hobbies include debating proper hand-washing procedures. Not surprisingly, Jesus develops some pretty strong opinions about how to plan a party. And Jesus observes there's a pretty big difference between how people tend to throw a party and how God throws one. And maybe the first surprise for some of us is that God throws parties at all. God is king, God is judge, God is secretary of war. Sure, but God is party planner-in-chief? Yet God's love of a good party is a repeated theme in Jesus' teaching. It's his favorite way of talking about the future God is planning. According to Jesus, God has spent much of history planning the most epic party the universe has ever seen. Picture a banquet table, infinitely long, piled high with the best of global cuisine. Music is playing, people are laughing and dancing and swapping stories. Uncle Joe has found the only other 2 human beings who ever existed who share his endless fascination with dung beetles. Every evening, the party picks right back up where it left off the night before. This is God's long-term plan for the world. So, who exactly gets invited to this party to end all parties? Jesus' answer is everyone, with or without a pulse. God is inviting the poor, the basic, the exceptionally strange, the hyper-competent, the needy, the golden, the broken, and the awkward. God is an indiscriminate host who just wants a full table. But Jesus also notes that anyone who accepts the invitation to God's party should expect to find that when they get there, a disproportionate number of the guests will turn out to be people in torn jeans, who sat alone in the lunchroom, who chew their nails, who couldn't pick out a soup spoon from a lineup. CEOs and scholars and homecoming queens will be in shorter supply. Why? Not because they weren't invited, but because they weren't hungry enough to ditch their excuses and show up. If you plan to attend that future party, Jesus suggests, now would be the right time to start adjusting your dining habits. Now is the time to start building relationships with the circle of people we'll be sharing that unending table with. Now is the time to begin aligning our guest lists with God's. And Jesus lays out his own unique criteria for making a guest list. The next time you throw a party, he says, instead of inviting those who can do something for you, think about those you're in a position to do something good for. Invite those no one else is inviting. Invite those who struggle to make their food budget stretch. Invite those who need a place to belong. Treat people without families like they were part of yours, with the same inner circle benefits. Prioritize people who don't have the home or the means to reciprocate. Human beings are always giving each other these things that we call gifts that aren't really gifts at all. They're exchanges, links in a chain of mutual obligation. We expect something. Maybe loyalty, maybe praise, maybe our own gifts in return. We make invitations to get something back. Gifts without any strings or expectations are rare. Jesus challenges us to step outside this system of human exchanges. Anyone can trade favors. Learn to give true gifts, he says. Learn to host like God hosts, with a bias toward hunger and need. And let any imbalances be charged to the accounts of heaven. You can get your returns from people, or you can get your return from God. One or the other. Take this to the bank. God's returns will always be infinitely better. Let's hear what Jesus says in Luke 14, verses 12 to 24. Then Jesus turned to his host. When you put on a luncheon or banquet, he said, don't invite your friends, brothers, relatives, and rich neighbors, for they will invite you back, and that will be your only reward. Instead, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. Then at the resurrection of the righteous, God will reward you for inviting those who could not repay you. Hearing this, a man sitting at the table with Jesus exclaimed, what a blessing it will be to attend a banquet in the kingdom of God. Jesus replied with this story. A man prepared a great feast and sent out many invitations. When the banquet was ready, he sent his servants to tell the guests, come, the banquet is ready. But they all began making excuses. One said, I've just bought a field and I must inspect it. Please excuse me. Another said, I've just bought 5 pairs of oxen and I want to try them out. Please excuse me. Another said, I just got married, so I can't come. The servant returned and told his master what they had said. His master was furious and said, go out quickly into the streets and the alleys of the town and invite the poor, the crippled, the blind, and the lame. After the servant had done this, he reported, there's still room for more. So his master said, go out into the country lanes and behind the hedges and urge anyone you can find to come, so that the house will be full. For none of those I invited first will even get the smallest taste of my banquet. I'm Megan Larissa Good, and this is Reading Jesus. If you'd like a discussion guide to aid you in conversation or reflection, you can go to patreon.com/JesusCollectiveCommunity and look for the Luke 14 post. Thanks so much for joining me for a few minutes in Luke, and I'll see you next time.